Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Barkoff. I am the Sober Cold Bear, and welcome to another episode in-home edition of the Sober Cold Bear podcast. Normally, I actually do these, virtually through, a podcast tool, but we were running into some technical issues, weren't we?
Yes, we were. It's a good thing we're only 5 miles apart.
It actually helps to be local.
Right.
And if, in case you're wondering who's sitting to my right, or if you're viewing this through YouTube, or to your left or whatever, this is Jody Ammerman, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. Super excited to hear your story, and we'll certainly kind of get to this in just a minute. But just to everybody, this is kind of my spiel, the Sober Cold Bear podcast. I created this as really a resource. It's not a place to go if you actually want to get sober. If you want to get sober, there's proven formulas for how to do that. You can go to rehab. You can, go to AA. You can get a sponsor. You can work the 12 steps. But really, it starts with the first 3 words: I need help. And just ask for help, because there's a lot of people out there. And I created this podcast for that very reason. And that's actually how we connected. So this is Jody Ammerman. Jody is also local to where I live, here in the Portland area. And I found you through Facebook. You had posted some posts about your son, which we're going to hear your story in a second. And now you have a Facebook group called Keep the Light On. It's basically a public forum on Facebook where folks can connect. You're actually telling his story in real time, which is, absolutely amazing. The subject of today, and kind of the topic of what we're going to be going through, is, what's a day in the life of being a parent with a child or children in active addiction. And that's really kind of the focus of today. So obviously we didn't script this. No. This is completely live. There were no questions. This is just you and I having just a frank, honest conversation. And hopefully what somebody hears out there, they'll be able to, get something from this. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
So Jody, why don't you start with telling your story of your boys and your sons, and their current story, and how you started to go about this, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, it started, I would say probably in 2014, 2013, when I had gotten word from one of their friends had called and said they were doing heroin. And I didn't believe it for a second. I was like, no way, not my boys. They both lived with me. They were in their early 20s back then. And I just didn't believe it. I mean, they were still functioning. They were still doing all their housework, and, they had jobs, and they were doing all of the things. But it just kept getting progressively worse. And I think in the first early years, I was very much in denial about what they were doing. I just told myself it was a phase. I told myself that, they're young, they're going to grow out of it, and all will be well. And this will just be, something to look back on. The friends that were coming to the house started getting shadier and shadier looking, and they were staying later and later. I started getting angry because they weren't working anymore. There was people at the house 24 hours a day. I was a single mom back then with, young, early 20 sons. I would wake up in the middle of the night at 3:00 in the morning, and the garage would be full of kids, boys, friends, whatever. And I would run out there in my pajamas, and I'd scream at everybody, get the heck out of my garage. And, the kids would get mad at me, and, Mom, you don't like our friends. You can't be mean to our friends. And I'm like, no, this is my house. Pretty soon they weren't working anymore. They were staying up all night, sleeping all day. I was going to work, and I was in complete denial of it. I just didn't want to face it. I didn't want to, admit that my kids had a problem. Then when I started to realize that they, really did have a problem, then I tried to control it. And I did everything in my power. I would go through their phone, and I would read their text messages and figure out who they were getting their drugs from. And I'd make anonymous police reports to the police with the phone numbers and the addresses, trying to get the houses busted. I would beg the kids, talk to the kids, all of the things, guilt the kids. I believed that if I was a good enough mom that, they could see how much they're loved and how much that, their lives matter to me, and that they would quit. We'd all be happy. And it was just a bunch of BS, because it wasn't working. Um, my oldest son moved out for a time, a few months, and it was relatively peaceful. Then he came back. He got sick and he came back. And he had gone to the doctor, and the doctor told him he had pneumonia. And so he came back, and he was staying with me while he was, getting better. And he just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And at the time we lived about 2 miles from the hospital. That we were down in Southern California. We lived about 2 miles from the hospital. And I kept telling him, go to work or go to the hospital while I'm at work. It's 2 miles. Like, you're 24 years old, go to the hospital. And he just wouldn't. And I was working 12-hour shifts during those times. And I was so, at this point, I knew there was a problem, and I was so not wanting to deal with it. So I would go to work and I would come home and I would go get something to eat or something to drink out of my refrigerator, and I'd go hide out in my bedroom. Just didn't want to deal with it. And so as the weeks went on, I kept getting angrier and angrier. And, then I would yell at his younger brother, take your brother to the hospital. He's sick. I don't ask anything of you guys, just do this for me.
Mm.
And one day my mom called me while I was at work, and she told me that she was really worried, that she had a bad feeling in her gut about my son. And I just told her, I'm just so angry. I just didn't want to even look at them anymore. I was so angry. And she says, "Joe, just do me a favor. Make me a promise that when you go home tonight that you'll just look at him." I said, "Okay, fine." So I get home and it was dark, and I go in the living room, and when I had left that morning, he was asleep on the couch. When I came in through the dark room, I could see he was still asleep on the couch. I grabbed my food and I turned around to walk out of the room, and I remember what my mom said, and I stopped the light and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with this,"
Mm.
And I turned on the light, but I made her a promise, that, and I made her a promise, and I couldn't lie to my mom. And so I turned on the light, and I turned around and looked at him, and I knew immediately that he was critically ill. And so I woke him up and told him, I said, "Zach, you're going to go to the hospital. The only choice that you have is how you're going to get there. Either I'm going to take you or I'm going to call 911. But either way, you're going to the hospital right now." And he sat up and he says, "Mom, I'm so thirsty." And so he had like a gallon jug of water on the floor next to him, and he just started chugging this water, just chugging and chugging. And I finally get him in the car, and I get him to the hospital, and I was pretty irritated because I thought, "Oh, he's just got the flu or he's just got pneumonia or whatever." And it's a work night. I'm going to sit in the ER for 8 hours before they even get him in and everything like that. But they took one look at him and they rushed him back immediately. And he was admitted. He they had to do blood work, but his veins from shooting up were so blown out that they couldn't even get needles in his veins.
Ugh.
And they had to do ultrasounds,
Okay.
and turns out that he was septic. He
Got it.
he had stuck a dirty needle in his arm
Got it.
and
He was
created
he was close to.
yeah, and it had created a vegetation on his heart,
Oh my
on the
gosh.
tricuspid valve. Normally, vegetations are about the size of a pencil eraser. His was the size of a quarter.
Wow.
And he was misdiagnosed with pneumonia because it was so big that chunks of it were breaking off and blowing into his lungs, like septic emboli, I guess.
Oh my goodness
And so what
gracious.
the doctors saw, what they thought was infection, was really chunks of
The sepsis.
the sepsis. Um,
Okay.
they admit him. The next morning, I got to the hospital around 10 a.m. and the doctor, he was already in ICU, and the doctor told me that if I had not taken him right when I did, when I came out the next morning, he would have been dead. His kidneys were already failing.
Oh my goodness.
He ended up staying 49 days in the hospital. He went into septic shock. He had total organ failure. His kidneys failed, his liver failed, his respiratory system failed. He had a heart attack. Every organ system in his body failed. He was on dialysis. They did several thoracentesis and they drew like, I think almost like 2 gallons of fluid out of his chest. They replaced the entire contents of his blood supply 3 times, 2 or 3
Oh,
times.
wow.
And every day for 49 days, the doctors told me, um, to prepare myself for my son's demise.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course, I moved into the hospital,
Gotcha.
and so I would lay there, and had a couch, little pull out, whatever. At least it wasn't a recliner chair.
Yeah,
Those terrible recliner chairs.
sure. Sure. I've been there.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, it was so strange. It was always at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he would wake up and he would be crying, and
Mm-hmm.
he would call out for me, and so I would go to his bedside, and he had to sit down on the side of his bed, and babe, what's wrong? What's wrong? And he's crying, and he says, Mom, he goes, I don't think I'm gonna make it out of here.
Mm.
The whole entire time that he was in the hospital, he was on IV penicillin 24/7. Like,
Gotcha.
one bag would empty, another one, and they were doing blood and all these things, and they were literally, they couldn't do the surgery to fix the heart valve because he couldn't sustain the surgery. And so if they do something to fix the kidneys, it would mess up the liver. If they did something, it just was like playing whack-a-mole the entire time.
Wow.
Everything that they did to fix one thing caused another problem. And
It's
so
like plugging in one hole and then another one unplugs, and that one
100%.
links, and then they plug that hole, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Yes. And so he had a heart attack also
Uh-huh.
at 24. Um, his but he would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he would, say, Mom, I'm not gonna make it out of here.
Mm.
And I would just, I'd get real close to him, and I'd say, Zach, you can't say that. You can't say that to me. And I go, you have to fight, because I knew in my heart that no matter what they were doing and the 24 hours a day of medicine and all of the
Sure.
things, if he gave up, he was not going to make it. There
Yeah.
was no medicine in the world that was going to save him. And I would tell him, I said, Zach, you have to fight. You have to fight. You cannot quit.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Mom, he says, I'm trying. He goes, but I'm so tired and I hurt so bad that I don't think I'm going to make it out of here. And I would grab his face and I'd get really close, and I said, don't you say that to me.
Mm.
You don't get to die. You are not going to die.
Mm.
And this went on 7 weeks, 49 days. When they discharged him, he was in stage 4 heart failure. His ejection fraction was 25%.
Wow.
And so the life expectancy of stage 4 heart failure with no aftercare is about 5 years. Came home with, walkers, and a box full of medication, and then people coming to the house and all of these things. And
God, I hope you had good insurance.
we did.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, it didn't cost us a dime. It was over $1 million, the medical bill.
I'll bet.
And
I'll bet.
didn't cost us a
So
dime.
so let me ask you a couple questions. So first of all, that story's insane. Second of all, Zach is one of the two.
Right.
How old are your boys now? What are their names?
Zachary is my oldest. He's
Okay.
34. Michael is my youngest. He's 32. They're 22 months apart.
Okay, and Michael is the one that is now clean.
Yes.
Correct? And
Yes.
Zach is the one that is still on the street.
Yes.
So let me ask you kind of an obvious kind of softball layup question here. That's a pretty good rock bottom, times 49, right? You would think.
You would think.
Why do you think, and obviously the topic of this is, you're a parent, you have, you have a child that's still struggling with addiction. Did you ever ask him, like, dude, you almost died in the hospital, you fought through this, you got out, like, why do you continue to use despite it all?
Yeah.
And what is his
He doesn't
response?
really have an answer. He
Doesn't
just
have an
says that he just can't stop. That he struggles with stopping and getting the help and maintaining the sobriety, and there's really no answer from him. There's no excuse. Like, he's not making excuses. He just I don't know. I think he's afraid too of all of there's so much chaos that you create when you're in addiction, and there's so much wreckage that you have to clean up when you come out. And I think that it's terrifying.
Yeah. So, okay. So a few years back, you started to post anonymously about Zach, right?
Yeah.
And Zach is still today, he's still on the streets here in Portland. I've seen posts from Jody where she's actually like, oh, I can't find him, or oh shit, I just actually found him, and there's a picture of them hugging and embracing, and she gives a quick update on hey, I think he's gonna go to rehab, and then the next story is I can't find him now. It's quite an interesting saga, and again, you can follow it on Facebook on keep the light on if you go to your phone or if you go online. So around what time did you a couple of years back just kind of start to post anonymously your challenges or your
No.
concerns, or looking for
Well,
advice? Like how did all that play out?
well, just to make the timeline clear,
Yeah.
this story that I just explained, this was way back in 2016.
Right.
Yeah. Um, he did get clean for a few years.
Okay.
About 5 years ago, he had moved back up from Utah and he was staying with us. I had no idea that he'd started using again,
Mm-hmm.
and he was living with us, and it was insanity. It was absolute chaos. And he's an angry addict, you know?
Really.
Yeah, and so he's very scary. Um, he never hurt me, he's never hit me, but he's a wall breaker, door breaker, throat thing thrower, scream, rant, yell, and so I put him out, of the house, and things were fine for a couple of years, and then, last year last year, he called me. He was up in Seattle at this point, and he called me and he says, "I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready."
So he went out of the area, went up to Seattle,
Mhm,
was using in Seattle, and
mhm.
then called you and said, okay.
"I'm ready." And I jumped in the truck and I ran to Seattle. And I left at 6 o'clock the next morning because he called me like at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And 6 o'clock the next morning, I was on my way to Seattle. Took me all day. It was a 20-hour day by the time I ended up getting back. Waited for him to pack all of his things. And if you ever try to do anything with somebody that's an active addiction, there's something that I call addict time. Nothing goes as planned, you know? I
Of
mean, in my
course.
in my mind, I was like, "Okay, we're gonna go get his stuff and bring him back," you know? It was a 20-hour day, because then you had to go through the you had to go through the storage unit, you had to go here, and it was chaos. But during that time, while I was waiting for him to pack his things and put them in the truck, I reached out and got a same-day admit for him, um,
For rehab.
for rehab, and it was in Vancouver.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of the name.
Vancouver, Washington.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't think of the name of it right now, and so 24 hours, so I finally get him on the road. We're finally, so I wanted him as far away from Seattle as possible
Of course.
and close to me as possible, but he didn't have OHP, so he had to stay with, Washington.
Okay.
So I lucked out, found this place. They were really, boom, ready to take him. And, 1 o'clock in the morning, I get him right to the door, and he turned around, told me to F off, and took off.
Oh my God.
Took off. And here I am with my truck is packed full of his family to the brim,
Oh
packed
my
full, and he
God.
takes off.
Just disappeared.
Yeah, just took off. He says he's not going, and he
He's
took
not going. He left you with all of his stuff,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then he just literally took off
Took
and
off,
disappeared.
took off.
How long ago was this?
This was, I wanna say, last November.
Okay, so November 2025.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Maybe
you
October,
spend all this time, you
fall.
you go you go get him, he packs up his shit. By the way, I have a really
It's fine.
crazy Seattle story
I
for
bet.
you about like a fentanyl story. I'll tell you in a little bit if we have time. Um, you pack him up, you drive back down. It's a 20-hour day. You're totally exhausted. You get to the actual door of the admittance of
Mhm.
this rehab facility in Vancouver, Washington, and he turns around and says,
Fuck off.
"Fuck off. I'm out of here. Bye." And
Mhm.
you're left holding the bag, his stuff, and everything
Again.
else. Okay, so what did you do with this stuff, and where did you
Um,
go?
I brought it home,
Okay,
and it's sitting down the street in a storage unit.
sitting down the street in the storage unit, all his stuff,
Mhm.
and since that time in November, he has intermittently reached out to you
Mhm.
and said, "I'm okay,"
Mhm.
but he's still actively using. Is fentanyl his drug
Mhm.
of choice now?
Yes, yes.
Do you know how much fentanyl he's using?
He says he's only using, like a 10, like a dip of I don't know
Well,
terminology.
they buy them by the pills, so
Um,
right,
I
and
guess
then
he's
they
smoking it,
right.
so he's using a 10, 10 or
So a
no.
significant amount per
He
day,
says
just
it's
to
just
kind.
enough to keep him from being sick. So like a dab or dip or dot or whatever. I don't know the terminology. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't know anything about terminology for fentanyl either, and I
Yeah.
never, frankly,
I asked
I
his brother
don't know.
how much it was, and he said it was about $10 a day.
Okay. And why do you think he is, still using? I mean, let me ask you a different question. Did a lot of reasons, and again, if you don't want to talk about this, I totally understand, but a lot of reasons that, there's childhood trauma,
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
family trauma, there's trauma when I had trauma when I was growing up in school and stuff. And is there any of that you think?
No, and that's the irony. So
That's
when
crazy.
they got sober the first time, both of them,
Yeah.
and there's a crazy story about when they went to rehab. And but anyways, he got sober. That's when the first time he got sober. His brother took him another year or two to, afterwards. But we were
Michael.
yes,
Hmm.
but we were in this, like, we always had this really great relationship, with my boys. And there one time they were both sober, and we were talking, and at this point I had gone through a couple of years of Al-Anon.
Uh-huh.
Big fan of the 12-step program.
Yep.
Everybody needs Al-Anon in their life for everything. I mean, it helps you deal with
Any 12-step program, it doesn't matter
everything,
what it is. Al-Anon, or
anything.
NA, or even
AA
AA. I go to
or,
AA every day.
whatever.
Yeah,
Like, it literally helps you deal with everything. You Helps you deal with the boss that you hate. It helps you deal with
absolutely.
everything.
100%.
Yes.
That's very well said. I'm glad you bring this up.
Yeah.
So so you went to
no,
Al-Anon.
so we were, so yeah, so I was at this point where I was really ready to take
You were
responsibility.
trying to understand kind of what you were going through, and you were trying to understand the program, and the Al-Anon and the 12 steps kind of helped you identify what you were going through.
Right. And also I wanted to understand my role,
Gotcha.
you know? And we were sitting around, the three of us, and I asked him, I said, guys, what did I do? What did I do that, contributed to you guys becoming addicts? Like, is there something that I let you down? Just
Is
whatever.
there a
Just
history of
give it to me.
addiction in your family?
Not really. Alcoholism. My grandfather was an alcoholic. My
That's
uncle was
still
an
addiction.
alcoholic. Yeah. So yeah. Um, and they both laughed and they said, Mom, we had the best childhood.
Mm.
And they said we'd sit around in group and people would call us liars because we were talking about how we were, you were always on our sidelines and we were taking all of our camping trips and our sports trips. And, they grew up going to church. We had dinner every night together. I mean, there was nothing that would make you see it coming. What happened was Zach got hurt and he got overprescribed oxy. And he and Mikey are still, very, very close. Well, not so much anymore because Zach's out, but Michael idolized Zach growing up. They were only 22 months apart.
Mm.
And Mikey did what Zach did.
So Zach introduced him to Oxy, got him hooked on it.
Hmm.
Okay, gotcha,
So
gotcha.
it's just a tragedy, bad
Yeah.
luck, bad timing, wrong doctor, whatever you want to call it.
What's the dynamic between Michael and Zach today? I know you said a little bit that they're kind of removed, just because I'm sure, usually there's one person that's out of, that's in recovery, and another that's in active addiction. Is it because Michael chooses not to engage with
No,
Zach? Is it because Zach has said, like, don't come near me, I don't want you to
there's
to
none
be
of that.
around? So what is it?
It's whenever Zach is reachable, and if he won't answer my calls, he always answers Michael's calls. If I tell Zach something and he's upset, I'll call his brother. He'll tell him and he can hear it from him. Like, they're still, despite the addiction and the distance between them, physical distance, they're still close.
Hmm.
Michael's even a few times said, "You know what? I'm going to go grab my friends and we're going to kidnap him and we're going to take him to the mountains and we're going to camp while he detoxes, and then we're going to get him into rehab." I mean, they're still that close, and he's willing to do that. Um,
So why do you think that hasn't happened? Or I mean, and it sounds like, other than the November um scenario that you described, where he called you from Seattle, you drove up there at 6 in the morning, came back 20-hour day, and then you got to the front and he told you to fuck off. Nothing's happened since then.
mm,
So what do you think? I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, first of all, I'm in recovery, right? And so my wife, bless her heart, had to go through, 2.5 decades of
Mhm.
not necessarily active addiction, but dealing with all of the character defects that goes along with addiction,
Sure.
which frankly is what, is a big part of it,
Right.
right? I mean, a kind of a byproduct of why we use is because of how we feel. And
Right.
when we don't want to feel that, we use to be able to mask that feeling.
Right.
And that's how we,
Right. And then the problems that you create while you're using make you feel worse. And
yep.
and so I think for him, a lot of it
And it
now is
becomes a coping mechanism.
right. And I think for him now, a lot of it, the majority of it is the problems that he created because he got married, had 3 kids.
So he has kids too.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
While he was sober, he got married, had 3 kids that now he's fully estranged
How
from.
old are his kids? Or how old are your grandchildren?
I don't know because she's estranged me from them too.
Oh,
But I can tell you that I want to say like 8 and 5 and
are they
3.
local or are
They're
they
in Seattle,
they're up in
Redmond
Seattle?
area. Mhm.
Do you think there's ever a chance to get that relationship back?
No. Their
You don't.
mom told me that I am the arbiter of chaos and everything is my fault and that the children will never be safe around me and it's all me that I did it all.
Would she ever
They met
if
in rehab.
gotcha. So she's an addict. So okay, well, that's fair. Um and do you think if Zach ever got clean and sober, she'd be able to have a
I do.
relationship with him again
Not
and her
them
kids?
too, but she
Not to back together, but with
let
his,
him see his kids. I think
yeah.
she would. I do. I really
Those
do.
poor children.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, there is a. I think, you know. So let me back up and tell you about when Michael decided to get clean.
Yeah, that's actually I was going to ask you about that. How
Yeah.
did that happen?
So, here I'm going out, Al-Anon, doing all the things, and the group right next to us was AA. We had our meetings on Sunday nights, and so we got to know, everybody, and you socialize and all the things. One of the guys in the AA group, his name's Jamal, was just starting with sober living homes, and he
Mm-hmm.
has, I think now he's got like 20 something of them in Southern California.
Wow.
But this is when he was first starting out, and Mikey had gotten arrested again, and he called. It's funny, every time that they would get arrested, and even to this
They would
day,
call you.
they call me, Mom,
Yeah, of
don't
course.
bail me out, but I want you to know I'm okay, because I told him I bailed him out the first time, and I said I'm never doing it again.
Uh-huh.
And so they always call me from jail. Mom, I'm okay. You don't have to bail me out. I'm
I'm
like,
in
all right.
jail, by the way.
Yeah. I always sigh a bit of relief. I always have a sigh of
Well,
relief
yeah.
when they do,
Yeah.
when they're in jail. They don't keep them long enough anymore. They just in them out. They go
Yeah.
in and go out now.
Yeah.
But anyways, not the point. So Mikey was in jail and he called me and said that he was done. Happened to be a Sunday and he says, I'm done. And I said, okay. He goes, I'm getting out of jail today. I think he was only in for a couple days. He goes, I'm getting out of jail today. And he goes, I'm done this time. I mean it. So I said, okay. So I'll tell you what, you get a ride from there to here. I'll wait for you here at the meeting. I will have a place for you to land. And so when I went to the meeting that night, I talked to Jamal and I sponsored Michael's first 30 days in one of his first sober living homes.
Gotcha.
And I told Jamal, I said, Jamal. And I told him, I said, do not do me any favors because he's my son and you're my friend. I said, if he breaks your rules, throw him out. You will have no issue from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is on him. He has got to do this himself.
Sure.
So I sponsored him his first 30 days. He shows up. He had nothing. He had on a white wife beater tank top, a pair of swim trunks, and some flip flops that they'd given him that were 2 sizes too big, and that was it. That's all he had. He had nothing. So I ran him through McDonald's, stopped at the gas station, got him a pack of smokes, took him to the sober living home, and dropped him off. And said, "Okay, it's on you."
And has he been clean and sober
He's
ever
been in
since?
clean. It's been almost 8 years. Yep.
8 years. And
Yep.
what's he doing now?
So he is a project manager for a kind of like a building company in Southern California. He's
Okay.
working on his aerospace engineer or civil
Amazing.
engineering degree. He's married, 2 kids.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. So,
You get to see those
oh
grandchildren.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
oh yeah.
So
In fact, we're
like
going down there
there
in 2 weeks.
despite it all, there is, a light at the end of the tunnel for at least one of these stories currently.
Yes.
And hopefully,
So,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you,
that's
but this
okay.
is important because I think it alludes to why, why doesn't Zach get clean, right?
Yeah.
So about 3 weeks in to Michael's sobriety,
Yeah.
I'm on my way to work and he calls me one morning and you can hear him like almost hyperventilating.
Mike, is this Michael or
Michael.
okay?
Michael.
Okay.
So he's 3 weeks in the sober living. He's
Okay.
doing his 30 and 30. He's
Okay.
doing his, my mom took him to Goodwill. He's got Goodwill clothes and she's driving him around to these,
Sure.
doing all, and because I wouldn't do any of it.
Yep.
I'm like, nope, this is on you.
Yep.
You can get someone to help you. That's fine, but I'm not doing it. And he's like, and you could hear the anxiety in his voice. And I said, what's wrong? And he says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have so much hanging on me because there's so much wreckage. There's pending court cases, there's warrants, there's money that you owe, there's collection accounts, there's how do I pay this off?
So he was starting to kind of realize the reality of all of the destruction and chaos that he'd created in his active addiction, and he was starting to come to reality that he needed to actually do something about it, and it was starting, and he couldn't, and so he was just completely panicking.
Right.
Got it.
And I knew in my mind, I'm like, this is a turning point for him. He's either going to fix this or he's going to go right back.
Yeah.
And so I listened to him talk for a few minutes and I said, okay, Michael, I go, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get out a pen and a piece of paper and I want you to write down every single thing that you need to take care of. All your cases, all your warrants, all your collection accounts, all the money you owe, all of it. You write every single thing down.
Okay.
He goes, Mom, but that's just, I go, no, listen to me. You write that down. And he goes, okay. And I said, then you look at that list, you figure out what the one most important thing is. And he goes, yeah. And I go, forget about the rest. You fix that one thing.
Then go on to the next thing.
Then you go on to the next
one. And then the next thing.
Right.
And then the next thing.
I go one step at a time.
Okay.
If you try to do it all at the same time, you're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to quit. You do one.
So you basically used a lot of the tools that you'd been learning in Al-Anon and the 12 steps to actually guide him, even though you weren't actually like saying these are the 12 steps you're doing. Right. Very cool. That's cool. So did it work?
Yes.
Funny how that happens.
So he he took care of his bills, put himself in welding school. He
great trade.
Right before he graduated, he lucked out and got a meeting with the union. Went to the union like the week before he was graduating, tested to become a member of the union.
Yep.
Did so well that they started him as a second-year apprentice.
Yep.
Got a certificate, met the girl, or actually reconnected with the girl of his dreams. And on August 30th of 2000, gosh, I think I want to say 2001 or 2001, I believe it was. We closed escrow on the house that he managed to save his money for, build his credit up, and buy and close escrow on it 2 weeks before he married his wife.
2001 or 2021? Because you said he's been sober for 8 years.
21.
Okay, so he got sober in like 2017, 2018. Is that fair?
And so 4 years later.
So 3.5, 4 years later.
Almost, yeah. Because
Gotcha.
his sober date is 9/11, and on August 30th, 4 years after that. So
wow.
Yeah, and we closed escrow on his house.
Amazing.
Yeah, and he repaired everything. He literally had flip-flops that were too big, swim trunks, and a wife beater 4 years ago, almost to the day.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all he had. And
that's incredible.
Completely. And I told him, because I was a mortgage lender, mortgage loan processor, so I was the one that was able to do the loan.
Sure.
I did not help him. He did it all.
Yep.
The only thing that I contributed was I got a bonus for referring the loan, and I contributed that bonus to his closing costs. It was only like $1,500, so it wasn't even that, anything. And I told him, I said, I am so proud of you. I go, look at what you did in 4 years.
Wow.
And he said to me, he says, Mom, he goes, it's all because of what you told me. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, every day to this day, I get up and I make a list.
Wow.
And I do one thing at a time.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I'm thrilled that he's doing great. And it's awesome. I mean, it's all you can hope for as a parent, right? I mean, I got 2 kids, and all you hope for is that you guide them and give them the right knowledge and the right, course of action. And I mean, actually, and to think about it, like, that's actually why a big reason I got sober. I wanted to not just do it for me. I wanted to show my kids kind of that there's a much bigger story and much bigger journey at play by actually getting clean and sober and
Mhm.
going and doing all these things. So, and so far, they're doing great, which is, knock on wood,
Knock
of
on wood.
course. Okay, so around what time? Um, let's kind of finish up with kind of Zach, and I want to make sure that we're keeping track of time. So we're at like 35 minutes. So we have another 10 or so minutes to talk through stuff. Um, so when did you start posting anonymously? Was it to Facebook? Was it to other
It's to Facebook.
communities? Okay.
It was to Facebook.
And at what time, at what point did you start receiving feedback? And at what point did you finally say, fuck it, I'm just going to go public on this?
I was posting anonymously, because I didn't want to embarrass him or, have
Did you want to embarrass him or you didn't want to embarrass
I didn't
yourself?
want to embarrass him. I didn't want to embarrass myself. I didn't want people to judge me.
Got it.
I didn't, want
Yeah, it's
any of
funny how that is, right?
yeah.
People will like, oh, you have cancer, and they'll do anything to help you. And it's like your
I
kid
even
is
wrote
like,
that in one of my posts.
yeah, your kid's in an addict, and then all of a sudden they just start, there's still a lot of judgment around this disease.
There is. And so I was, getting the feedback. A couple of months ago, I got desperate because I couldn't find Zach again.
Mm.
And I finally just took a leap of faith and I said, I'm tired of hiding behind a anonymity. And I posted with my name, with his pictures, and said, I'm desperately trying to find my son.
Wow.
And it went viral.
And that's when we met.
Yeah, it went viral. I had 2.5 million views in a month. They're still climbing. I mean, it went completely.
Now, did you post initially a video or did you post a picture? Or
Picture.
are you okay? And did you create a group around that picture?
No, not at the time.
Okay.
So, the feedback that I got, was incredible. Then my husband and I decided independently of this that we were going to.
Did you know that he was still in the
We
Portland
knew he
area?
was in the Portland area.
You just didn't know where.
Right.
So you posted it into this.
Well, he had gotten shot too before that. Yeah. And so the last time I saw him was he checked out of the heat. He got his finger shot off in a robbery attempt.
Oh.
And I had him he was in the hospital. He had his finger amputated. And so the last time I had seen him before that, this was, I want to say, gosh, February, March-ish.
Of this year.
Yeah.
Mm.
It all kind of runs together on you.
Oh, sure.
It's when the chaos is every single day, there's nothing that really differentiates it. It's like, oh yeah, he was in Seattle a couple years ago, or he was here. It just all is one big continuing reel that runs through your life.
Yeah.
So he checked himself out of the hospital AMA the day after his finger was amputated. And in fact, and I was so angry, they took him. I mean, they were going to direct admit him to rehab from the hospital, and he refused to do it. And I had even taken his things from the hospital in an attempt to hold him there, a little longer. And
yeah, the thing about rehab is, or getting clean, you can have interventions, you can tell somebody that you love them, you can do all the things that you want to do. But until that person actually says, I actually need help and I need to go and do something about this, I need to go to rehab. Like I pray that whoever is listening to this or watching this, that you do have a situation where, you're able to help your child or your loved one or your best friend, when they need help, and or you have an intervention, they get into rehab and they stay. But the statistics are very low.
Right.
Very low, because you're not doing it on your own time. You're doing it on somebody else's.
Right.
And until you actually have the reality check of, I am totally powerless and my life's completely unmanageable and I have nothing more to give and I can't do drugs anymore to mask the pain, I need to go and take this thing head on.
And he talks all the time. It's all he talks about. It's all he's ever talked about is how he's going into rehab and going in. So it's a lie that he's telling himself. Oh, I'm going to go into rehab, so I'm not really an addict.
Does he ever talk about powerlessness and unmanageability?
Oh yeah.
He does.
Yeah. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't live with the streets. The cops, they do these sweeps and they take his things. And he ends up with nothing again. He's like, I'm so over this. I'm tired of people, looking at me like I'm not a person. I am a person. I'm tired of people stealing from me. And I'm like, then just stop.
Yeah.
There are resources. I have resources. There are people out there that will help you right now. Oh, well, I have to go do this or I have to go do that. And I'm like, okay, bye. I love you. And I walk away again. It's all I can do.
I have a very good friend, and that friend of mine has a son who, for years, was an active addiction
Hmm.
and started with painkillers, and then very quickly graduated to fentanyl
Hmm.
as well. He was on the streets and uh, went to rehab a number of times, never made it through, had a bunch of overdoses and all sorts of stuff. And they got him help. They forced him to get help, but finally something clicked and he realized that he actually needed help himself and he got through it. Now he's been clean and sober and he's got a job. He lives in another state and he's doing fine. And well, yeah, and it just really comes down to the person actually saying, I got to do this.
Right. Well, and that's the point of my group too, because when you join these self help groups or these support groups
Yeah.
on the internet, um, generally they take this hard line of cut them off, cut them off, cut them off.
Yeah.
Let them hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And when my husband and I went out to look for him a few months ago, we must have talked to over 200 homeless and addicted people that night. And I mean, we were down in the deep, dark areas like Burnside and 122nd, and
Yeah.
on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
It was, and the thing that we heard the most from every single one of those people that we talked to was, "Wow, I wish somebody was looking for me."
So let's kind of finish with, and we could talk about Zach all day long. And obviously,
Yeah.
I want to ask you a quick question around like, has others that have had struggles with children in addiction, have they reached out to you to ask for help, advice, or whatever? Has somebody, as a result of this movement that you're creating, have they been able to reconnect with their kids or help their kids? Are there any success stories that have come out of this?
I don't know if it's a direct result.
Hmm.
The lady, Melody, who is my moderator, was estranged for her daughter when we started this, and now her daughter's back in her life. She showed up at church on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
And so, I don't know if it's a direct result of anything we're doing because we're mostly supporting each other.
Sure.
I have the mindset that yes, you hold your line, and you hold your boundaries, and you keep your peace in your life and in your house, but you keep the light on for them so that when they're ready, you go get them.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different of a group than most people. Um, and what triggered that was all the people saying I wish somebody was looking for me, you
Mm.
know? And also the next day, one of the support group that I was in, this lady made a post and it really resonated with me. She said, my son has been calling me and calling me and calling me and wanting and begging to talk to me. And the restraining order I have against him is getting ready to expire. And I don't know, I think I need to renew it even though he's got 6 months sobriety. And my brain is screaming, no, honey, go get him and love on him and show him that he is not his mistakes. He is not his addiction.
Mm.
He is still that child that you love. You
Mm.
can still hold your ground, you know? Um, but you don't have to enable them to be there for them.
Yeah, you
Is
can still have your boundaries.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the biggest feedback that I'm getting in the group is people are like, "Wow, nobody's ever said that to me."
Mm.
And the other thing is, the other reason I went out with my name and stopped hiding behind anonymous posts is because there are 66 or 67% of Americans are touched by a loved one in addiction.
I think that stat's actually higher, but that's just me.
I probably it was a
I
quick Google
I
search, and probably
I
higher.
think it's greater than 90%.
Yeah, but when you sit there in church in your shiny church clothes and you're looking around and everybody's, all these picture perfect little families and nobody's talking about it.
Of course, because
Nobody's talking about
it's
it.
a hidden message always.
Right. And and I think we need to bring this out. We need, because you take the power of something away when you bring it to the light.
Sure.
And so for me, I'm going to stand up and say, I'm not ashamed to say that my son's addicted. I love him anyways. I'm
Of
going to hold my
course.
boundaries, but I'm going to be there for him.
Well, and you also, in the spirit of kind of like codependency and everything else, like you need to have those boundaries until he's ready. Once he's ready, you're there.
Right.
But until that point, it's like, hey, buddy, like, I'm here. I love you. I will always love you no matter what.
I will talk to you.
I will talk to you, but
not giving you money.
I'm not giving you money, and I'm not gonna,
I'll feed you sometimes. If I spend a day with you, I'll share a meal with you.
Sure.
If it's cold.
It's like a business relationship,
Right.
kind of, right? I mean, until it's like, until he's ready, he's ready. Well, I pray that, I pray that, he figures this out, and hopefully one day I'll be able to meet him. Let me ask you one last question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap. Where do you see this movement going? Do you have any plans for it? Do you want to continue to branch out? Do you want to, go to more cities and help more people? Do you just want this to continue to grow organically? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to
all of the above?
Do you want to do a podcast? Like, what's your goal here? What's your objective?
I already have a book in the works.
Oh, you do?
I do. I've been writing it. It's about the journey through his sepsis and the crisis that we went through. But,
okay.
I've been writing it for 10 years, so who knows if it's ever going to be released.
Sure.
My objective with this is to take the shame away of having an addicted child.
Yes. Love that.
Take the shame away. There's no reason to be ashamed.
None.
To get people talking, normalize loving an addict.
Yeah.
Just because you have I used to be so afraid to tell people about that I'd had 2 sons. I have one that's doing great. Look how wonderful he's doing. Oh, well, don't you have 2? Oh, I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be ashamed.
Absolutely.
So I want that. It's empowering,
Sure it is. Sure is.
It takes all when you speak it to life, it takes all of the shame away. It takes all of the guilt.
Well, there's a power and a freedom to be able to just kind of be open about the situation, right? Being transparent about your addiction or your problems or just coming clean. I mean, living in the shadows and living in secrecy, that's not a fun way to live.
Well, you're only as sick as your secret.
You're only as sick as your secrets. It's better. Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, you're a living, breathing example that, and by the way, this is also, a good, outlet for you around your own mental health. The fact that you're able to talk about this and create a conversation around this, and I'll do all the things you need to do. Yeah. It's just an incredible story. Well, I appreciate you coming by, and I appreciate doing this in person with you. And I'm glad we were able to work this out. And, thank you for being a part of this. Is exactly why I created this podcast. I created this because I wanted to, get connected with individuals that, also had something to say about this and had a bigger, higher purpose in terms of helping others. And hopefully somebody out there that listens to this will be able to learn and grow from it.
Yeah. So, everybody, please, if you feel that you have somebody that you love and is addicted and you're ashamed, there's space for you here. Go to Keep the Light On. It's on Facebook. It's a private group, so anything you say will stay in the group.
Yep.
And answer the questions. You'll be automatically joined. And that's the biggest feedback I've gotten is people say, thank you for creating this space. It's the in-between, because we have addicts in there too, and recovering addicts. And we have loved ones. And so they're talking. And
well, we'll put this podcast in there. Hopefully everybody will listen to it.
I hope so, yeah.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. So again, this is we're going to wrap up the podcast here. Thanks everybody for stopping by and being a part of this. Again, the Sober Cold Bear podcast is not a place to go if you want to get sober. There are ways to do that. You can go to rehab. You can go to AA. You can go to NA. You can go to any 12-step program, get a sponsor, work the steps. You can go to rehab if you need to go to rehab, but it really starts with I need help. And it's a hard thing to do, but once you get past that, you can actually, there's a lot of bright spots ahead. So we're going to go ahead and sign off, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Bye-bye.
And I've been trying to call, I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe